Hi everyone, let's focus on my micro Elliott Wave scenarios on Bitcoin, starting with the most bullish one, where we have been looking for a wave 1 to another 1 2 before then continuation to the upside. However, I have three problems with this particular scenario as mentioned over here. The first one is that if this is a 1 2 3 4 5 wave in a bigger wave 1, this wave 4 over here is very short in time compared to this wave 2, which usually is the other way around. Usually a wave 4 is longer than a wave 2. Then we have a very short wave 2 over here. So normally a wave 2 takes at least 38.2% of time compared to the length of wave 1. However, this wave 2 is even shorter than the 0.236, which is incredibly short already. And I can put it on my chart over here. So if this move by itself is the correction, then this is incredibly short, and also this is incredibly unlikely. Now in this particular scenario, therefore, I was looking for a zigzag. If this is the second 5-wave structure to the upside, right, you can count a nice 5-wave structure in this move to the upside, and then a second wave 1. I was looking in this scenario for this to be a wave A, followed by a 3-wave in B, and then a corrective structure to C, where then eventually this wave 2 is moving to the right side. And also time-wise, if we look at time, it would be much nicer to finish between the 0.618, the 1, or even the 1.618. But this is incredibly short that we have over here. And now the scenario is also invalidated, like a zigzag, a B, C zigzag, because we took the high over here. And in a zigzag, which is a 5-3-5 wave move, taking the high is not allowed. And this is actually the main reason why for me this scenario is becoming a lot less likely at the moment, because if this wasn't the high of this wave 1, but the wave 1 goes to this high over here, we can't really count any wave 4. Like this looks to be a 3-wave structure and not a nice 5-wave structure, right? Yes, this could then be a correction in a wave 2, but the wave 1 here does not make any sense. So because of these reasons, this scenario now becomes actually less likely compared to my other scenarios that I have. Now, in this particular scenario, we eventually expect a wave 3 to the upside, which has to be a very big move, right? It has to be a wave 3 of a bigger wave 3, which means that volume definitely needs to pick up, and it is quite an impulsive move, vertical move to the upside. However, as it stands now, not my preferred bullish scenario. Now I do have two other bullish scenarios, so that's the good thing, of course, where the first one I like to show you is this one over here in a WXY. So in this particular scenario, this is a wave A, wave B, and then a wave C, which means it's a zigzag. It's a 5-wave structure in A, 3 waves in B, and then another 5-wave structure in this wave C. Now the same problem applies here, that this wave 4 in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is very short compared to the wave 2. But in this scenario, it's just the way it is, right? Then we have a 3-wave B and a nice 5-wave structure in the wave C. And in this scenario, if this is then the high of a wave C, which hit the 1-to-1, by the way, this is the most common target for a wave C in an ABC, taken from the low of A to the high of A to the low of B. So that is very nice. But besides the 1-to-1, we also had the point of control of this range over here. And we started to create bearish divergences very locally as well, after hitting the 1-to-1 and the point of control for then a potential trading setup to the downside. Now in this particular scenario, we then bounced when we moved to the downside on the range value area high of this range over here, as well as the 382, which is a minimum target, the 382, for usually a wave X, because in this scenario we are thinking of a 3-wave structure in the wave W, then eventually a wave X, before then a continuation to the upside in a wave Y, which then is a 3-wave structure as well. Now in this particular scenario, the 382 has been hit. It's a minimum target for an X, so one could say, okay, this could be the low of wave X. But then I have the same problem if this is the high of wave C, and this definitely looks like an impulsive structure. Also, if you go to the lower time frames, let's actually move to the 5-minute over here, then one can count this over here as a 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 4 5. So basically a 1 2 3 4 5-wave structure. This counts nicely as an impulsive structure, not a corrective structure. Very difficult to count a zigzag in that small little structure. So it looks impulsive. But then if this is an impulsive move to the downside, it cannot be a single structure. Like it needs another leg to the downside and then an A, B, C. But as you can clearly see, we did not get it. And also it's invalidated because the high is taken. So therefore this scenario also becomes less likely in my opinion. because we want to have a 5-wave structure in a wave C, but then you want a 3-wave structure in X. And if this is a 5-wave move impulse, you really want to see a move up and another move down and not taking the high. But that is exactly what has happened. So in this particular scenario, again, it is less likely, but I did expect another move down, which is not what we got. So let's go to this scenario, which might actually now become the more likely scenario. Of course, price can continue pushing, and I have absolutely no problem with that. Then the low somehow is in over here. However, I do at least think about this scenario over here, where in this particular scenario, we have a wave W and then a 3-wave structure, followed by another 3-wave structure, and another 3-wave structure. So we basically have a W, X, Y in this wave W, for then a corrective pattern over here in an ABC. So now this impulsive structure is the end of something. Again, I've actually said this in many videos in the past, which I think is very, very important from an Elliott Wave point of view, that if you want to use Elliott Waves, the moment you see an impulsive structure, you always have to think, is this a wave C? Is this a wave A? Or is this a wave 1? That is something you have to try and decide. In this particular scenario, we're thinking about this as a wave C and then an ABC expanding flat. So now this is a 3-wave structure, which means that potentially the correction can be in and more upside can be expected in then a Y. So that is then a 3-wave structure as well, and then a WXY. However, there's always a however, right? However, usually the minimum target for a wave X is the 382, and you can see that actually price just missed out on hitting the 382. Now, it does that sometimes. It is absolutely possible that it doesn't hit the 382 and just continues to the upside, especially with the price action that we have over here, right? It looks a little bit impulsive. However, then price needs to continue pushing instead of falling down. And don't forget, what goes up quickly can also go down very quickly. And if we actually go to the CVD divergences very locally, then what is happening over here? It's difficult. Yeah, it's actually after a swing failure pattern, CVD divergences can be extremely leading. So of course, price can continue to the upside. We have a little bit too little price action actually to check for CVDs so locally, but we did have bullish CVDs over here. We had a higher low in price, lower low on the yellow CVD. We also had divergences between these lows actually, like higher low here, like minimum, like few dollars higher low over here, but on the blue line, lower low. But this one, in my opinion, was a very risky one because price was so close to pushing to the downside. This one was a much better setup, in my opinion, because, yeah, second bounce, second time a retracement, bullish divergence is very nice for then the move to the upside. And you want to see continuation as a bull. And after a wave X, yes, it is possible that this is already then the continuation, right? That's nice about this scenario. This scenario can already be finished and then a WX and then continuation for Y. Now this X is also short. It's 0.2 or between the 0.236 and the 0.382 FIB time taken from the low of W to the high of W. So basically saying that this wave X, it time-wise, is basically like 30% of the time it took to develop wave W. However, that is possible, right? It is very short, gotta say, it is very short, but it is absolutely possible. So wave X could already be in, and then eventually we find continuation to the upside, where if this is a 5-wave move, one could potentially expect another zigzag structure, potentially to the upside. However, a W zigzag, then an X flat, and a Y zigzag is not allowed, so we have to actually wait and see what Y is eventually gonna be. Now, we do have a double bottom, which I think that if price is going to move to the downside, which is still something I would really enjoy, we have a double bottom over here for maybe a bit of a liquidity grab and continuation to the upside. And not to forget, which is something I definitely like as well, is the target box over here. Now it is quite low, especially to where we are at the moment, but I do want to mention this target box for you all. At 28.2k to 28k, we have a target area with a daily range value area low of a range over here as well. We have the 786, and we have again liquidity, a double low over here as well. So there's some interesting confluence, but this is very, very low. And yeah, as it looks right now, especially with the move that we had to the upside over here, it looks impulsive, because if you count this as a wave 1, potentially a wave 2, maybe another 1-2. But if this is a 1-2, then this already looks like a wave 3, especially with the extension that we then have over here. If I put on the wave 3 extensions, you can see that the 2.618 has already been hit, which is not a wave C target in this being a 3-wave structure. It's a target for a 5-wave structure. So then this could potentially be a 5-wave move already to the upside, and then the low is already in, so we are continuing our way up. So yeah, we have to wait and see, of course, in that scenario. Of course, we always have a bearish scenario, not looking too great for the bearish scenario. I mean, the bullish ones were preferred anyway in all of my previous videos. But in this particular scenario, this move down, impulse down, is a wave A or 1. Then you want to see a 3-wave correction before downside. Now, it would have been nice if that 3-wave correction was then ending over here. So then this was the high of either a wave B or a wave 2, and then continuation to the downside, because then you can count a nice 3-wave structure. Price did move down, but then after it goes up now again, this starts to become a very, very unlikely scenario. Besides the fact it already was very, very unlikely, because also on the higher time frames, we do have some bullish divergences between this low on the left and a higher low on the right, and the target for the bullish divergences is the 30k high, and currently price is on its way to take that high. Of course, many structures can be formed in the meantime, but it is a structure that is something, of course, it is a target we keep our eyes on. And in this scenario, this 3-wave scenario on the lower time frame, we were looking for an A or W, a 3 waves in B or X, and then eventually looking for an impulse in a wave C, or we're looking for a wave Y. And as it stands now, looking at this like horizontal grinding structure to the upside, looks a little bit more like a wave Y than a wave C, because a wave C is a more impulsive structure to the upside, and a wave Y could be a more channeling, or is usually a more channeling structure, and it currently looks more like a little bit of a channeling structure, I suppose. If we actually pull a channel over here, you can channel it very, very nicely at the moment. Of course, it can break out further to the upside, but it looks at the moment a little bit more like a wave Y than a wave C. But we have to wait and see how price is going to develop throughout the day. So I hope this video was helpful or valuable to you. Please check out the macro and the high time frame video if you're interested. And for now, thanks for watching and subscribing, and I will see you at the next one. Bye bye.